Good evening and welcome to the fourth season of Conversations with Lothrop. We're very pleased you can be with us this evening. Before we go any further, I'd like to call your attention to this new backdrop we have here that Matt Friedenstein did. And we are very appreciative to him for that and for the whole staff here who makes this program possible. And of course you, the listeners, are very, very important to us too. This evening, we're very privileged to have Kathy Plank. Perhaps I should say Katherine Plank. Is Kathy all right?
Kathy
I'd say Kathy is fine. She has her Bachelor's of Music and a Bachelor of Music Education degree from the University of Louisville, Kentucky, right?
Yes.
And we want to get those credentials established right away. Why don't we start by your telling us just a little bit about your background, your hometown, where you came from, anything you think might be of interest.
Well, I'm a Southern girl. I was born in Georgia and grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. If you're from Louisville, you pronounce it Louisville and not Louisville.
I'm sorry. I'll stand corrected on that one.
I'm the daughter of a Southern Baptist minister and grew up very much active in a big church community. Mm-hmm. I, at a very early age, began to love to sing, love to play the piano, and found my life going in the direction of getting involved both as a performer and then deciding to major in music in college. And throughout my life, just about everything I've done for pleasure and for my career has been involved in music.
That's what they call blending vocation and avocation, isn't it? Which is, I guess, the best of all worlds. So you just, was there music in your family? Was that what drew you into it? Or?
Yes. Both my parents sang all the time, all the time. My mother played the piano, and I have one younger sister, and she and I sang duets all the time together. And so I became involved in lots of church choirs, community choirs, so singing's always been a very important part of my life. And indeed, my sister also has gone into music. She's a mezzo-soprano and teaches voice at the University of Kentucky.
And you married a musician.
Yes, I did.
Steve Plank, her husband, who teaches at the Conservatory, music history.
Yes.
Right? And plays organ, trumpet,
and
something
almost
else.
everything else.
Everything else. All right.
Yes.
Every now and then I go to concerts and here he is with a new instrument, as far as I'm concerned. Well, that's wonderful. Where were you living just before you came to Oberlin?
Just before we came to Oberlin, we were in St. Louis, Missouri. Stephen was finishing his doctorate at Washington University. I was teaching school, and also I had a private piano studio there. So we had 4 wonderful years in St. Louis. We liked St. Louis a lot. And then Stephen was appointed to a position at the conservatory, and we moved with our 9-month-old daughter and have been here ever since.
And she's a freshman in college this year at Kenyon, I believe.
Just started at Kenyon.
And so that tells us something about how long you've been here.
Absolutely, that's how we remember.
That's wonderful. Do you have a son who's what grade?
Aiden is a freshman at Oberlin High School.
Fine. Well, let me ask this, and you partly answered it. Are there areas of music that especially interest you?
Well, I love all music and all forms of music. You know, I love symphonic music and chamber music and all those things. But what has always moved me the most and inspired me the most is song and singing. I think it's that combination of music and word that speaks to me. And I find that I am more and more and more involved in choral music because of that. That seems to be what I choose to listen to the most, and clearly the way I spend most of my time.
You listen to a lot of music when you're home? Do you have it on
yes, we
recordings?
do. Yes, we do. In fact, if you come into our house, it's constant. My husband, of course, is always listening to things that are important to him and his field of interest. Our son is a jazz musician, so often we have jazz upstairs and Baroque music downstairs, and I may be listening to some choral music in the bedroom. So
do I dare ask how sympathetic Mother is with jazz?
Oh, I love jazz.
Okay.
I do. It's wonderful. Yes.
Now, are both your kids musical?
Yes, yes. Aiden is playing bass and very interested in jazz. Our daughter sings and plays the flute. At Kenyon, she's in the community choir and playing in a woodwind ensemble. So
Great.
I think it's a family thing.
It does sound as if it's deeply embedded,
There
as
you
they
go.
say. Now, you've done quite a bit of teaching.
Yes.
And most recently you were a number of years at Lake Ridge Academy.
Yes, I was.
I guess first part-time and then full-time,
Yes.
is that right? And then you finally decided to go full-time with the Oberlin Choristers,
Right.
is that right?
Right.
So that leads us right into this. Tell us about the Oberlin Choristers, and I'd like to know when it started and how did the whole thing come about?
Well, way back in the spring of 1990, I had this crazy idea, which was there might be a need for a community children's choir here in Oberlin and surrounding areas. And I think I was beginning to think that because I grew up in a community that afforded me the opportunity to sing in large, successful children's choirs, both at school and church and in the community. Because Oberlin's a small town, as we know, most of the churches in town, didn't have enough children to have a large choir, to have that kind of experience. And unfortunately, many of the school systems were making cutbacks in art education, and my own children were not getting the opportunities to sing in a choir that I wanted them to have. So I decided to start a choir, a children's choir. And I sent an invitation to all the teachers in Lorraine County, to
Oh, the music teachers?
all music teachers and directors of church choirs, just anyone I could think of, that I would like to start a community choir for children based here in Oberlin. And it's interesting that first year we started out with 44 children, and I think 41 of them had received a personal invitation from me to be a part of this choir. And now we're going into our 8th season, and we're singing with 300 children. So clearly, I think there was a need for this in this community, and it's just grown by leaps and bounds.
Now, of the 300, how many would be Oberlin, approximately, roughly?
A little less than a third now of our singers live in and very closely around Oberlin. This year, we have singers coming from Medina, Bay Village, Huron. We even have a singer who drives up from Ashland. So we're really beginning to expand now and grow in all directions.
So I can see why you went full-time with
yes.
it. You just couldn't,
Right.
couldn't juggle that. And what are the age groups what is the age group?
Okay, well, when we first started out, we had one choir of children in grades 3 through 8, so that's roughly ages 8 to 12, about that. And as we grew, our first direction was downwards. We started a training choir for kids in 2nd and 3rd grade.
And you ran that too?
Oh, yes. And then as our singers began to get older, they wanted to continue singing, so we started growing in the other direction. It's all kind of had a natural process. Right now we have a 1st and 2nd grade choir, which we call a primary choir. We have a 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade intermediate choir. Both of these choirs we think of as training choirs. They are non-auditioned. We simply accept children until we're full and go from there, and we always have waiting lists for both of those groups. Then beginning in 5th through 8th grade, we have a concert choir, and that's our first auditioned choir. So children who are interested in that do need to go through an audition process.
Does it help them to have been in one of the training choirs?
Well, what
that a
typically
theater?
happens is that children who have sung for a year or two in one of our training choirs are better equipped. They're beginning to develop the skills that we're looking for concert choir. So yes, quite often it's a natural moving up from one choir to the next, although not always. Sometimes families move into the area, and what's interesting is that this children's choir movement is growing all over the United States. And families will move here looking for a community choir because they had one where they were singing before. So, for example, this year we have children who had sung in the Chicago Children's Choir, and they were pleased to find an auditioned community children's choir here. So for those singers, clearly they're ready, even though they haven't sung with us in the past.
And do these kids have to read music pretty well? How do you handle that?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Basically, we're looking for a good, pure, natural sound, a good ear, a real enthusiasm for singing and just wanting to do it. And part of what we want to do with these children is teach them to read music, which we do within our rehearsals. So it's not absolutely necessary that they come to us already.
I see.
In finishing out all of our age groups, one thing that we're very excited about is that we have started this year for the first time a high school group. And we're singing now with 60 teenagers, 9th through 12th grade, in a brand new chorister choir. That one is conducted by Dr. Jody Kirchner, who is on the music education faculty at the conservatory. It's been fun because until this year, of course, we've been a treble choir, right? We've had only sopranos and altos, and now it's nice to have tenors and basses too.
I was going to ask you if changing of the voice with the males
absolutely
had a
absolutely,
downer.
and
that was a downer
that
for
was one of the reasons we decided to expand because boys who had sung with us through 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade and loving it. And of course, their voice changes, and they would be very disappointed that they couldn't sing with us. So now that they have a place to sing and just move right into that high school group.
Now, how many people can you handle in each of these groups? It must be a time where the mass is so large.
We are, we're limited both by space of, the rehearsal rooms that are available to us, and with the younger choirs, you don't want to let them get too big because we like to give a lot of individual attention to these young singers and let them sing for us one at a time. So the primary group stays around 50. The intermediate group is about 60. Our concert choir we do is our biggest group. That's 100 singers, and they make a mighty sound.
Is that all three together?
No, that's a separate.
That's something
a separate
else.
choir.
That's something else. That's not the choristers.
No. All of these are choristers. They're
okay.
just different choirs of choristers.
I see. Okay.
And then the high school group is about 60 this year.
Okay. Now, what's the age group of this concert choir?
The concert choir is 5th through 8th grade.
5th through 8th. But do you hope eventually to include the older kids in that?
No, because we'll just let them sing in the high school group.
Oh, I see.
We have a separate choir for them now.
Okay. All right. The logistics of this is amazing.
Well, when you think about it, now that we're to so many different choirs and 300 children, it's almost like running a small school.
And how many people are helping you with this?
Well, we have a part-time manager that helps me with communicating with all these parents and keeping the records. And of course, we have to have a treasurer, and we have a very committed, functioning board of directors.
And you do fundraising, I assume.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right now, we are heavily into fundraising because our exciting news is that we've been invited to participate in an international children's choral festival next July in York and London.
Wonderful.
So we're going to
at the cathedral in York?
At York Minster, yes.
Yeah, wonderful.
We'll be with 5 other children's choirs who've been invited to be a part of this. So it's an honor, and we're excited, and of course we're trying to send 60 children to England, so we're talking a lot of fundraising.
And some of the parents go too, I assume, to help.
Oh yes, have to have chaperones and helpers.
Yes. So that is absolutely wonderful. And I think I got the signal. It's halfway through, isn't it? Almost. Let me ask another question, then we'll take our breaks. Time goes so fast because we're having so much fun here, you see. I was going to say, and I think you've touched on this a little bit. I was going to ask you about turnover, and we've talked about that. Do you have many people drop out?
Surprisingly, not too many.
That's great.
Most children, we really work to make this a very positive experience and a growing experience, and most children stay with us.
Good.
The boys have dropped out in the past when their voices have changed, before we had a choir for them. Families relocate. Some children, as they get older, find that they're more interested in dance, or, you know, and that's fine. And so they sometimes stop singing because their schedules are just too busy. But most of the time, they stay with us for years.
This is a tribute to the whole program, certainly. Yeah, let's talk about your basic objective. If you could just size up in a very 1 or 2 sentences, what is your basic objective? Well, no,
I think...
Or are there more than one?
Well, yeah, I think we want to provide an opportunity for children with that special love of singing. And often these are the children that have some gifts in singing, some special talent. Give them an opportunity to expand their skills, to have that wonderful experience of singing with other children who love to sing. I always tell kids that the reason why I do this and continue to do this is that when you put together a group of 50, 60 to 100 children, all of whom love to sing, magic always happens. It's just incredible. So we want to give them that opportunity to develop their talent, to expand their musical skills, and also to discover that when they give 100% and all those other singers give 100%, something really special happens when they're a part of that.
Let's take our break, and when we come back, what we'll talk about is repertoire and how she chooses what they're going to sing.
These days, the media seems to move faster than ever. No sooner does something happen than the TV cameras are there covering it. There before almost anyone else. Almost. Please support the American Red Cross. The need is real. The time is now. Help can't wait.
Welcome back, and we're going to talk about repertoire. And do you strive for cross-section of choral music? How do you plan what you're going to sing?
I think what I should say is that what I am looking for is excellent repertoire. Always something that's worth the time to learn and to perform. Excellent repertoire can be from any time period, any different kind of music, and including folk music and contemporary music and jazz. We've sung a lot of jazz. For example, on our spring concert in Finney Chapel last May, these children sang a 2-part duet from a Bach cantata in German and absolutely loved it. And then they turned right around and sang some contemporary music just composed for children's choirs, which was arrangements of traditional nursery rhymes, but in a very unique setting. We have sung folk music from all around the world, and I have a real interest in ethnic music and letting children experience what it's like to sing music from South Africa and Sweden and Mexico. And so we sing a lot of ethnic music in different languages. Children love different languages.
And they're at an age where they catch that quickly.
Yes. But I think overall the way I judge the music is this really worthwhile music? Is it written well? Are there things that we're going to learn about music by learning this song? And when you give children and young singers the best, they know it, and they love to sing it.
That leads us into something about the whole area of time commitment. How many rehearsals a week?
For For most of the choirs, it's one rehearsal a week.
Okay.
Younger choirs rehearse for an hour, older for an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half. Another group that we have that I didn't really explain, and when I talked about going to England I should have done, is that we pull from our concert choir and also from our high school group a select group of kids who have demonstrated a real enthusiasm for what we're doing. And we invite them to be in our touring choir. So touring choir children sing twice a week. They come in for rehearsal twice a week. And because they're willing to do that and have the interest in doing that, they're the group of kids who learn the extra repertory and can make the touring trips. Mm-hmm. And when extra opportunities come up for us, as they often do, for example, the conservatory's doing Carmen as the opera this fall, and we've been asked to train some of our singers to be in the production. That often happens.
Wonderful.
So it'll be a group of children from this touring choir who have made this extra commitment, who are willing to rehearse more and learn more repertory, who will be chosen to be in that.
Now, when you say touring choir, is that the same as the honors choir?
No, that's a completely different thing we should talk about.
We'll talk about that. Let's hold that for a minute. I had that written in here somewhere.
Yes.
I didn't want to miss it because it sounded very much interesting. Your concert schedule, you've led into that really with the touring. Mm-hmm. You get a good many invitations.
Yes, we do.
And you seek some, I assume.
Yes, we do.
And how do you decide where you're going to go?
We traditionally give a November concert right before Thanksgiving. And we've started making that concert a benefit for the Second Harvest Food Bank because I think it's important that these children know that their talent and their singing can help people out. Mm-hmm. And so we try to move that concert around the county, around northern Ohio, to different churches every year. This year we will be singing at St. Jude in Elyria, and that'll be on Sunday evening, November 23rd at 7. And we ask our audience to bring a canned good or some donation to the food bank. It feels really good to do that concert. Then we'll give a holiday concert. We usually do that one here in Oberlin, one of the churches in Oberlin. This year that's December 20th at the Methodist Church, First United Methodist. That's always a benefit for our scholarship fund. We offer a lot of scholarships, and we keep our fees as low as possible because we want everyone who wants to sing to be able to sing.
Let's talk about fees a moment.
Uh-huh.
I didn't think about that. But
right.
There are fees. There are costs to
Yes.
running all this.
Mm-hmm.
What is your fee schedule, or how does that work?
Well, our fee is probably one of the lowest of any of the community choirs that you're going to find in the country. The younger choirs are asked to contribute $70 for the full year. The older choirs come in at about $100 for the full year. And we let our parents, spread that out over several months if they need to. And everyone who asks for some assistance is given some kind of assistance. So I think we're very fair with that.
That sounds wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Then continuing, we give a big showcase of choirs.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
In February, traditionally. And that's the one time when we get all of these singers together. This year, that's going to be at Stocker Center on Sunday afternoon, February 8th. And that's a wonderful program to come to because then you get to see the tiny little ones all the way up to the high school kids singing. And somehow we crowd them all 300 of them on the stage at the end to sing 2 or 3 songs together.
That's wonderful.
It's one of my favorite concerts.
Are you getting into other states some?
Yes. We did a tour 2 or 3 years ago where we took the group back home. We went to Kentucky and sang in Louisville and did some wonderful concerts there. This past summer we did a festival in Akron at E.J. Thomas Hall. And we always will then give our spring concert. We usually traditionally do that here in Oberlin at Finney Chapel. And then other incredible opportunities come up for our kids. In August, we always sing the anthem at Jacobs Field for the Indians. That's become a tradition. And all kinds of, I never know what's going to happen when the phone rings. We get all kinds of invitations.
Do they get free admission to the ball game?
The Indians don't do that for us.
Oh, Make a note of that, everybody.
Now, we sang
Just
for
make
the
a note of that.
Crunch, we sang for the indoor soccer, and we did get in free for that, so maybe the Indians are listening.
No, they have to pay for a stadium.
That's right.
Can't
That's
forget
right.
that.
Shall I tell you about that honors choir?
Yes,
what
talk
that's all
about that. Tell me about that.
Let me tell you about that. For the past 4 years, 5 years, I guess, I have sent audition tapes from some of my individual singers into national honors choirs that are sponsored by some of the professional musical organizations. For example, the American Choral Directors Association does a national honors choir. The organization of Kadai Educators, which is a kind of music education group, does a national honors choir. And they accept audition tapes from children all over the country and then choose a group of about 150 of those to come together in wonderful places and work with a guest conductor and give a wonderful program. And for the past 5 years, we've had representatives in that choir, and we're very proud of that. Our kids have sung in Minneapolis, in Chattanooga, in Baltimore. Last year, a group of them sang in Salt Lake City with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. All of these things are wonderful experiences for our individual singers. And I got the idea that wouldn't it be great to, on a much smaller scale, give the children in Lorraine County an opportunity to be a part of an honors choir. So we hosted the first annual Lorraine County Children's Honors Choir last March. And what we did was sent out an invitation to all the music teachers in public and private schools who have students in grades 4, 5, and 6. We had to limit it somehow. And asked them to be a part of this. And we got responses from 17 schools, which I thought was pretty good the first year. Each of those schools were invited to train 6 to 8 of their children who showed some real promise with some repertory that I had picked out because I was the first guest conductor of this. And we pulled them all together on a Saturday and gave a concert in Finney Chapel, which was absolutely packed. It was wonderful. The audience was full of people. And those wonderful young people, about 200 of them, just gave a beautiful, beautiful concert. So that's what it's all about, and we're going to have a second annual.
Good. Are they going to tour some eventually, do you think?
No, it's a pull-together choir. They don't ever sing together again. They
I
just
see. Oh, it's each time.
Yes.
I see. Oh, I see.
Yes, they learn the repertory at school with their teachers. The advantage for the schools is that the schools get to keep the music that is bought for the festival, for the honors choir, and they can use it in their schools. And the children who have that opportunity bring a heightened enthusiasm for singing back to their schools. And so there's more singing in schools and more singing in our community, and we help each other out.
Does that also act as a feeder to other choristers?
Yes. Our intermediate choir that I told you about, which is about this age range, 3rd, 4th, 5th, doubled in size this year. It's so big that we have to rehearse it on 2 different days and then put them together for concerts. It's over 100 children. And a lot of these children were involved in the honors choir and decided, hey, I really like singing. Where can I sing some more?
Isn't that wonderful? That is wonderful.
Yes.
I was going to ask you, and I will ask you, in fact, about diversity of background. That's a challenge, isn't it?
It can be. It can be. Because indeed, children come to us who have beautiful natural voices, who have never sung in a choir before. And also, children come to us who, as I was saying before, have sung for 2 or 3 years in another audition choir and have lots of experience. We're now going into our 8th season. We have children with very advanced skills. And at the beginning of the year, we start out with a 1 week of camp in August. And that's kind of, I always say, I really couldn't do the season if we didn't have camp, because that's the week that we begin to bring all these diverse kids together, both musically and socially. Gives them a chance to get to know each other.
Where do you have the camp?
Well, we've been holding that camp out at Lake Ridge Academy in North Ridgeville. It's a day camp.
Your stamping ground.
There you go.
Yes.
It's very kind of them to let us do that. And it's a day camp. We don't spend the night, but we spend a whole day singing and playing games and doing art projects and
That's wonderful.
and building community. So that by the time we start that first rehearsal, that diverse group of kids already knows 4 or 5 songs that they can sing together, and they're ready to build on that.
Great, great. We really can't close this without mentioning 2 or 3 other things, and one of them is that you're in a new quarters, the Union Center for the Arts.
There
Tell
you
us
go.
about that and what your facilities are.
Well, until last year, as is the case with the other arts organizations who are housed in the new Union Center for the Arts, we were running this choir basically out of 2 or 3 houses, my house and 2 or 3 other parents' houses. And I had boxes and files all over the living room and the bedroom, and the phone rang continuously, and to where my husband and children got tired of answering questions about choristers. Now we have our own office on the 2nd floor of the Arts Center. And it's wonderful to have the choir there and not in people's houses.
And they can have you have rehearsal
Yes,
space,
we
don't
do.
you,
We
there?
have a small rehearsal room for the smaller choirs. And there's also space in that room for us to store our library of music, which, as you can imagine, grows every year. And then the large choir, the 100-voice concert choir, rehearses in the 3rd floor studio that is used both by us and by the other arts organizations. It's also a dance studio.
That's the one with the wonderful mirrors.
Yes, yes. So we have some designated space and some shared space in that building.
Wonderful.
But invite everyone to come and see it.
Yeah, but and somebody's there most of the day now.
Oh,
Or
yes.
somebody.
Oh, yes.
So you have secretarial help or something up there? or-
Some.
Some.
We need a little more.
A little
but
more. You don't have a
yes.
full-time secretary.
No.
yet. You're getting there. It'll
We're
come.
getting,
It'll
it'll have to
come.
come.
Let me ask you this. That's sort of a wrap-up. From your music teaching and from the choristers' experience and your general musical background, have you comments you would like to share about music education in the public schools today? And I don't mean just Oberlin or Lorraine County,
Right.
but generally. Is there
Right. Well, you know, I've
good
had
trends or bad trends or just...
I've had 10 years in the classroom, both in St. Louis and here in Ohio, and I think many of us music educators have been disturbed that as school systems have had to make cutbacks, and it's happened all over our country, so often the first place the cutbacks have been made is in arts, in music and art and drama and and instrumental music and vocal music. What we're discovering, the latest research is saying that it is in the arts that we can help children so much in all of their academic areas, that is the one thing that we should not be cutting out. And I think it's evidence of the success that we've had with our choir and the way it has grown so rapidly is that children want this. They want to sing. They want to grow as musicians. And I think we need both. I think we need extracurricular activities like choristers after school for those kids who want that extra enrichment. And we need really strong choirs and orchestras and bands and arts and drama in our schools. And I support that as often as I can, and I really encourage parents to do that too, to say to their school boards and anyone who will listen that, you know, we want music in the schools for our kids, and we want art in school for our kids. It's so important. Interestingly, what I discover over and over and over again is that there's a real discipline about a choral rehearsal. The kids come in, and for an hour, they don't talk. And they pay attention to the director, and they listen to what's going on around them, and they discover that they learn that music quickly. My parents tell me over and over again that after a year or even several months of singing with choristers, that their child's academic work improves. That there's something about the discipline of the choral rehearsal that spills over into the school day. And I think that's going to happen at school, and it's going to happen everywhere. We need to have these opportunities for our young people.
Do you find any correlation, positive, or hopefully if you do, positive, that a person in, say, a choir like yours, one of the choirs, who also has some experience in instrumental music, has a leg up? Does it make any difference?
You mean if they have instrumental experience?
Well, as the person has studied piano, or if the person has studied horn, or whatever, does that give a child coming into choral work for the first time a leg up, so to speak?
Yes, it is an advantage. All musical experiences make us better musicians. Quite often, children who have had instrumental training are a step ahead in reading music, in hearing intervals and all that. So yes, I think it is an advantage. And many, many of our singers do study instruments. They seem to go hand in hand. They seem to want to do that.
Do you think being in the choir stimulates some of them to want to do it for the first time?
I think it goes both ways.
Both ways, marvelous. We really shouldn't close without asking you how people join the chorus, or the choristers, and to whom should they...
Well, anyone with any interest in our choir can call us at the Art Center at 774-4079. And if I'm not at the desk, or if someone else is not at the desk, we have voicemail and we'll get back to you.
Okay.
We do register and audition for our choirs in the spring for the coming fall, and that's something that parents sometimes don't understand. And they will wait and call us the end of August as school is starting, only to discover that we're already full for that year. So I would encourage parents who want information, who want to get involved, to go ahead and call now. And we'll put them on a mailing list so that they will get a notice when we're ready to register and schedule auditions.
Good. So we hope there'll be people out there heeding this and being able to participate in this marvelous program, or programs. Let's think of program. Well, we're just about at the end of this. It's gone fast. It's been fun. It's been fun and very edificating for me. Do you have any final thoughts or comments you'd like to share?
Well, very quickly, my parents would be angry with me if I didn't tell everyone that one of our fundraisers for England is yet another car wash, which will be at the Super America up there on 58 this very Saturday from 10 to 4. So please go get your car washed and make a generous donation.
And do
for
people
that.
pay in pounds or American dollars?
We'll take anything.
Yeah, well, I certainly appreciate your being here. It's been absolutely wonderful, Kathy. And before you leave, I want to present you with this Conversations with Lothrop mug, which we give our guests. And it's sort of like this, only in a miniature.
Thank you so much.
And we thank
Wonderful.
you. So it blends in with what you're wearing
That's
tonight
right.
perfectly.
That's right.
And we'll give you a tape in a few minutes of this. And we thank you so very, very much for being our guest tonight.
Thank you.
We thank you also for being with us this evening, and on the last Thursday of October, we will have another guest and another program of Conversations with Lothrop. And so until then, thank you so much for joining us, and good night.